One of the major issues nowadays with the commemoration of the sacrifice of Imam Hussein is its secularization by diverse groups throughout the Muslim world, be it in the West or in Muslim countries. This is normally done by members of the mainstream Twelver community, Shia community, although this is also done in part by Twelver Alevis in Turkey. And it's this idea of presenting Imam Hussein as a social justice warrior, as a revolutionary. The idea is of course not new. This was already presented in such a way by Ali Shariati, who was an Iranian intellectual who was very famous during the 60s and 70s. He had studied in Paris at the Sorbonne at a time where Marxism was extremely influential in Europe. And many of the leaders of the then colonized world had been educated in Paris and had adopted Marxism. And what Shariati does is that he creates this new type of religiosity whereby or religious language whereby the grammar is basically Marxist and the vocabulary is taken from Twelver Shiism. It's a sort of pidgin language, so to speak, and really in many ways a bastardization of the Twelver tradition. The problem, of course, with this sort of way of presenting Imam Hussein as a revolutionary is that, first of all, it deprives us of the celestial dimension of Karbala. When we look into the traditional sources, we find very quickly out that Karbala is actually placed within a cosmic context that has whereby the political situation, the social and political situation, is just an excuse for the unfolding of the event of Karbala. Whereas for Shariati, the social and political conditions that existed at the time of the event are of prime importance and have to be placed within the Marxist view of history, of the war between the classes. And of course this is extremely problematic because to transform Imam Hussein in a sort of revolutionary hero means that, well, if Imam Hussein had a revolutionary project and died in the way of trying to achieve this project, he, well, from that point of view, failed his mission. And of course, from that point of view, it is the duty of these westernized Muslims of nowadays to basically finish the job that Imam Hussein left unfinished. And of course there's this supreme act of blasphemy, to say the very least. The other problem with it, of course, is that it's a very anti-traditional vision of the world, whereby the event of Karbala is deprived of its celestial context. One has to remember that Imam Hussein has, in the tradition at least, has a human dimension. He also has a celestial dimension, a malakuti dimension, and he has a divine dimension as well, a lahuti dimension. And these higher natures of Imam Hussein are completely obliterated out of the present-day narrative on Imam Hussein, where he's just presented as a sort of new Che Guevara or or as a new braveheart, so to speak. And it's really tragic to see how people are being misled by this sort of narrative, whereby also now Zainab, the sister of Imam Hussein, is sort of presented as a feminist hero figure, and it's really out of place. First of all, it's anachronistic, and secondly, it really lacks a deep understanding of how Arab culture at the time of Imam Hussein actually worked, and in part still works in certain parts of the Arab world. It's for people who know Iraqi society very well. In the south of Iraq, you have these amongst the Marsh Arabs. It's not uncommon for older women within a larger family to hold positions of authority after the demise of their husbands, and they're then basically known as sheikhas, and they hold positions of authority. That does not make them feminist heroes in any way or form, because they're still enforcing the semi-patriarchal codes of their society. And this is exactly what happens in Karbala. Zainab is not there to be a sort of, she's not a feminist hero figure in any way whatsoever. She actually, in her speeches around that period, be it in Kufa or Damascus, she actually appeals to her status as a member of the nobility to be able to free her family from bondage. So this idea that we're dealing here with a feminist hero figure who basically fought against all odds against patriarchy is absolutely absurd. And it comes from people who have absolutely no understanding of how Arab aristocracy basically worked. Zainab was completely in her rights to do what she did, and it was in many ways expected of her that she would do such a thing. When one doesn't understand the celestial and cosmic aspect of Karbala, then Imam Hussein just becomes interchangeable with Che Guevara or any other hellbound Marxist hero that the left has summoned up after years and years and years of genocidal madness in the different ways in which communism has destroyed entire societies. So these are very important questions that need to be asked, and that unfortunately very few people are asking, because they're not very they're not comfortable questions to be asked.